Before we get started in today's show, I want to tell you about Stamps.com, longtime sponsor of the BS Report. It's quick, it's convenient. More importantly, it's really, really easy to use. You do not have to go to the post office anymore. You can just stay home. Make your own office, your personal post office. You can avoid lines. You can avoid just standing there as somebody mails some package, some 79-year-old lady. Who needs that? Make your own mailing and shipping from your house. Stamps.com. Put in the top right of the site, BS. You'll get a deal and a scale and a whole bunch of other things. It's a great product. You can buy and print official U.S. postage using your computer and printer. Stamps.com will give you a digital scale. It will automatically calculate the exact postage for any letter, any package. They'll even help you choose the best class of mail. Wow. Why go to the post office? Just give it to the postman. Stamps.com. Check it out.
The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects. The BS Report. The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. Taping this on a late Monday morning Pacific Coast time. It's going to run Tuesday. Coming up a little bit later, JackO. We're going to talk Red Sox, Yankees, winter signings right now. Zach Lowe. We are at the 20-game mark, basically, of the NBA season. Biggest surprise for you right now?
Ooh, biggest surprise. I have to say, off the top of my head, I would have to say Houston being 16-4 with all their injury issues, with Dwight being out with a mysterious knee injury, Terrence Jones, Pat Beverly in and out. I am super impressed that they're 16-4 and just they're finding a way to grind out these wins. And sometimes you watch the games and you think, I don't even know how they won that game, but they won it. And so I think I'd go Houston 16-4 in an absolutely insane Western Conference.
Yeah, they're 16-4. They don't even have a point differential of 5 plus 4.8. Is Harden an MVP candidate, like legitimately, or am I crazy?
No, he's absolutely an MVP candidate. I think the MVP race is wide open, especially since the guy who's been the best player in the league by a fairly large margin, Anthony Davis, is on a team that's not going to make or is on the outside of the playoff race. But look, Harden has been the only consistent offensive threat on that team, aside from some frisky Donatas Motiejunas post-up stuff now and then. And look, he's trying on defense. Now, the Rockets and other people want to forward this narrative that he's become like a defensive player of the year candidate, which is ludicrous. He's trying on defense, which means he's fine. He's okay. That's what he is. He's an okay defensive player when he tries. And if you want to give him a cookie for that, fine, that's great. Let's like pump the brakes on this like Harden elite wing defender stuff. But no, he's right there with any number of guys. He's a legit MVP candidate.
He's not a liability this year on defense. It's stupid. We're 20 games in. There's so much season left. But at the quarter mark, he would be my MVP. I think he's had the biggest impact on a team. And I always judge the MVP by change this guy for an average person at their position. What would happen to the team? I think if you just put an average 2-guard in his spot, that team would fall apart completely. And he does so much, and he puts so much pressure on the other team, and his ability at crunch time to just create some sort of a shot for himself or somebody else. I think he's been the favorite. Chris Paul's getting some buzz lately because he's been playing a crazy statistical stretch the last, like, I guess 3 weeks, but their schedule wasn't that hard. My jury is still out on the Chris Paul MVP candidacy. I see it statistically, but I want to see them beat some good teams. What do you think?
He's been playing great, and that's the amazing thing. I mean, we're like 2.5 weeks away from what's wrong with the Clippers. Then the Clippers went on an Eastern Conference road trip and beat the crap out of everyone, as every Western Conference team does. And, you know, for a Western Conference team, they've played a pretty easy schedule, and the West is going to start playing the West more over the next couple weeks, and that's going to be interesting. But Chris Paul, people are sleeping on what a great season he's having, and one of the best seasons of his career so far. He's in there. Steph Curry is in there. Might be the favorite right now. Unibrow, LeBron. I mean, you could go on and on. It's a wide open MVP race and a really, really fun season, especially in the West, which is just playing a whole different league of basketball.
What about? I agree. They should secede into their own league, the West. Unfortunately, you will have already heard this podcast by the time the game happened, but Suns Clippers tonight. I'm intrigued by that one because I went to a game last year where the Suns gave the Clippers a lot of problems with their pace. And I want to see how the Clippers adjust that tonight. We can both agree we're disappointed in Blake Griffin, right, this season?
He's been playing better lately. When I've watched him, he's had several games where he's gone to the post a lot more than he was early in the season, where he was, just drifting out for 10 mid-range jumpers and a couple of threes a game. But yeah, his defense has been shaky. He's not rebounding like he was 2 or 3 years ago. There are rumblings that back injury is just something that's going to linger throughout the season. But he's been good. I mean, this is one of those things where the expectations for him are so. He was everyone's sexy MVP candidate before the season because of how great he was last year, and he hasn't been quite that great. But he's been fine. I mean, look, defensively is where the rubber meets the road for those guys, and it's TBD so far.
Well, last year I thought he was the third best player in the league. I don't think he's been one of the 10 most impactful guys this year so far, but it does seem like he's not 100%. And I'm interested to see. They've been a little bit transparent about what's going on, but I'm interested to know if he's more hurt than they're letting on. You before the season, we did a podcast, and you said, I was like, give me a sleeper MVP candidate. You said Steph Curry. That one's looking pretty good.
I voted him third last year on my ballot, ahead of Blake, and behind only the big two, LeBron and KD. He's an offense unto himself, and they're 17-2, and he's having another great season. He's playing much better on defense, and Kerr has sort of let him go, right? I mean, you're going to guard the opposing point guard every night, and his footwork has been great. And I just think the only danger is, do you tire him out? And they still struggle to score when he's off the floor, although they've been better the last 3 or 4 games with their bench. But he's a glitch in the system. He's the kind of offensive player. If you can make 30-foot threes off the dribble with minimal space, you are just a complete anomaly, and that's what he is to me. Is he the front runner now? I don't know. He might be. He's right there.
Yeah, I think Harden's got to be the front runner.
And we didn't talk about Marc Gasol yet.
No, we did not. He's in there too. He's in the conversation. You and I, neither of us are surprised that the Warriors are 17-2. I would say, because I think both of us felt really strongly about the Steve Kerr just going into that situation. I always felt like the Warriors, as strange as it sounds, kind of underachieved for what they had from a talent standpoint. And you watch them this year, especially a guy like Harrison Barnes. And I thought it was interesting I forget who wrote it, but somebody wrote a Harrison Barnes profile, and Harrison Barnes basically came out and said, I was being used incorrectly. We had an offense that was basically just ISO stuff, and that's not my game. I like moving. I like being on the move. I like coming off picks, and I'm just so much more comfortable now. That's a guy that I think Warriors fans would have been totally fine trading last year, and he's turned into an asset. They've played one game with David Lee this year, and they're 17-2, and I just really like that team. I think Kerr has done an amazing job. What do you think?
Oh, he's been great. I love the roster. I wrote a whole thing last year on how they were my stealth championship contender if they could get better coaching and away from the ISOs. And I was optimistic they could do that last year. And of course, that proved incorrect. Although they gave the Clippers everything they could handle without Bogut in the first round of the playoffs. I love the team. I love the roster. I love the way they're put together. Everything Harrison Barnes is saying about his own role is exactly right. And the Lee thing is fascinating because I think it's a done deal. He's not starting ever again in Golden State. And the interesting thing about, okay, so then how do you use him? And it's very easy to say, oh, you just, make him a key cog off the bench and he runs the offense for the elbows. But okay, then who does he replace? Because you're having great success with a bench unit that's very small and features Harrison Barnes at power forward. And that gives opposing benches a lot of trouble. And it's safe to play him there because nobody's bench has a 4 who's going to punish him on the block. There's no great post-up big man on the bench. Okay, so if Lee doesn't replace him, he replaces Maurice Spates, who is shooting fireballs out of his hands every game. So I'm not sure where you've got to play him, and he's useful, and maybe but putting him in there is going to be interesting.
Well, thank God I'm here. The Picasso, the trade machine.
Oh boy.
I wonder if they're happy with the team they have and they just try to do them for an expiring and a backup forward who can play 15 minutes a game. And they're thinking short-term, long-term with him. Maybe you don't want to screw this up. Look, the elephant in the room with them is that if they don't trade one of Lee or Iguodala,
they're going to be like $10 million over the tax next year. And that gets you into paying like $110 million just to field a team, once you figure in payroll plus taxes. And they've never paid the tax, and nobody wants to pay a tax bill like that. So that's the elephant in the room, is like one of those guys has to go unless you're willing to just bite the bullet for 1 year and pay an enormous tax bill, knowing that the cap's going to go way up and you'll probably never be in danger of paying the tax again. But yeah, I mean, I think they'll listen for sure on David Lee deals. And I think, honestly, they would listen on Iguodala deals because they're just so deep at the wing. And again, the money situation is what it is.
I was impressed that they were able to Jedi mind trick Iguodala into coming off the bench, because that's a guy who makes $12 million a year. And that's something Mark Jackson should have done last year and didn't. But the obvious move for them, we talked about it last season, was to start Barnes, get him more involved, and bring Iggy off the bench, and also kind of save his body a little bit from a minute standpoint. They were able to do that. I wonder if they'll have the balls to move Lee for an expiring. Like, all right, here's an example. If you're the Celtics, would you think about just trading Marcus Thornton's expiring and Brandon Bass for 2 years of David Lee? You get him this year and next year.
Ooh. Why? What's in it for me?
You're getting the best player in the trade.
I don't think that doesn't interest me if I'm Danny Ainge, unless I'm getting a pick with it. And they can trade their pick, I think, because they traded Utah their 14 and 17 picks. So they are freed up to trade a 2016 or 15 first rounder, I think. Let me just check that to make sure.
Wow, you really don't like David Lee that much.
What does he bring to the Celtics? Like, the Celtics aren't,
Have you watched the Celtics?
Well, no, I've watched them, and they can't hold a fourth quarter lead to save their lives, and they have no go-to scorer, et cetera, et cetera. But like, what's the point? They're not. Do they want to win games? Are they dying to win games that badly that they're going to shake up their team?
I don't know.
Thornton and Bass, who cares? But there's no motive for me to do that without a pick thrown in.
So I went back to Boston last week with my daughter, and we went to the Celtics-Laker game. The Celtics aren't bad. Like, they're 7-11, and they've blown 7 games in the last minute, and they're in this weird situation with Rondo where he's clearly not a max player. And I think it would be insane to give him a max contract, but I think he's going to get a max contract, and it's not going to be from the Celtics. I don't think. Would you give Rondo a max contract? He's made 9 free throws in 7 weeks. Yeah.
The free throw shooting is a real issue. What is he, 9 for 30 something now from the line?
He's way in his own head with offensively. And it's like, all right, the Lakers, the game I went to, he was fantastic, but he was going against the Lakers, who are the worst defensive team I've ever seen in person.
They're so bad. Oh my God,
it's unbelievable. I had really good seats. We were like sitting right under the basket. It is unbelievable. And I actually last night I bet on I did the Pats money line with the Pelicans money line, because I was like, after watching the Lakers in person, I was like, how are they going to stop Anthony Davis? This is like an impossibility. There's not a person on this roster who can hang with him. But the point is, like, with the Celts, like with the assets they have and the expirings they have and the extra picks they have, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to be decent this year.
Well, look, I mean, the Eastern Conference, I mean, Charlotte, New York, and Detroit, to varying degrees, all thought they could make the playoffs, right? Charlotte thought they could be a top 4 seed. They are all so disastrously bad,
right, that
all of these teams, Boston, Orlando, Indiana, the crippled Pacers, like, they're all in the playoff race, and I'm not sure they can, like, not be in the playoff race without a complete fire sale. But yeah, Rondo is shooting 39% from the floor, 11 of 34 from the foul line. And you just look at the point guards, like, where does he rank in the point guard pecking order now? He's almost 29. Is he better than, he's not better than Kyle Lowry. I don't think he's not better than Mike Conley, not in this state. He may not be better than Eric Bledsoe or Goran Dragic. I mean, like, just so you start go through the names, he's not a max player anymore. And I'm certain the Celtics don't want to give him the max. But I will say this, I agree with you. The Celtics are like, okay, and they're the kind of team that Rondo needs to be on. In other words, if he's the worst shooter on the floor and everyone around him, including the 2 big guys, is a pretty good shooter, you've got the makings of something, and they have the makings of that. They can't defend well enough at the rim, and Sullinger is not quite the long range shooter they hoped he'd be, but they have something cooking with that setup.
Yeah, and they play with a great pace. Their offense is good. Rondo, it's the perfect offense for him. You can't ask for a better offense. The problem is, they have an offense that revolves around gunning threes, and only recently did they start making them. They shoot like 23 threes a game. Tyler Zeller's been a slight protecting the rim improvement, but by slight I mean it's not a catastrophe anymore. It's just a disaster. But I like the players in the team. I mean, even somebody like Jeff Green, I think he's averaging like 19 a game this year. You don't want him to be your best player, but he's an above average starter on the right team. I don't know what they're going to do. There's one interesting thing that I actually did some research. You and I talked about this, and then I did some research, and I found out the rule. So let's say the Celtics decide they wanted to trade Rondo. They don't want to pay him. They could do a pick swap with somebody using the Clippers pick because the Clippers pick is unprotected. So the Knicks are 4-18, but the Knicks are only, let's see how far they are out of the playoffs here.
Pretty far.
Well,
7 games in the loss column, I think.
They're 8 games behind Brooklyn right now. If you're the Celtics,
by the way, the Nets-Knicks rivalry really has taken off. Just New York City is on fire right now about these teams. I can tell you, I live here. It's all people are talking about in the streets.
It's great. It's like Ali Frazier. But the Celtics could trade Rondo for Brogdani and do a pick swap this year with the Knicks pick and that Clippers pick, which I didn't know for sure if that rule was true, but it's true. So let's say the Clippers are the 27th pick and the Knicks do that trade and they can't get out of the bottom 10 and the Celtics get the 8th pick out of that. Then you flip the picks. So Celtics would pick 8th, the Knicks would pick 27th. I don't know if the Knicks would do that, but it does kind of increase the Rondo options, right? To be able to do pick swaps and stuff like that with that Clipper pick, plus all the Brooklyn picks they have. I think the Celtics are going to be up to stuff. And I also think the market for Jeff Green, there's just not a lot of above average perimeter guys out there. And we could name 7 teams off the top of our head right now that could use Jeff Green. So I think they're the number one intriguing trade partner heading into these next 2 months. Who do you have Charlotte and Denver over them, or would you say Celtics?
I think, Celtics have Boston has the biggest name, and that's Rondo. And again, the issue is I don't know why the Knicks would do that. I mean, I understand they're needed.
Because they're crazy. Because they're dysfunctional and incompetent.
I think the vibe people are getting from them is that they're that Phil has sort of muffled the craziness a little bit. And people don't seem to think they're super interested in making trades this year. They're okay being bad. They're okay going into the top 5. And Rondo's an expiring, and Green is kind of a semi-expiring too. So I don't know. Green is much easier to trade. Yeah, I think Denver is probably the most intriguing team to me, just because I don't see them making a playoff run, and they have all those assets. There are a couple other teams. Hold
on, now Denver. Wait, don't they have like a crazy amount of money committed for next season?
They do, which is I think part of the reason why they might try and find a trade that sort of clears off some of that salary if they can find a taker. And a guy like Wilson Chandler's having a great year. Now, he doesn't have a lot of salary for next season, but if you can attach a Hickson or a Gallo or somebody to him, maybe you think about it. But again, they don't have, it's not as if all their guys are like blossoming at the same time and are, people are dying to get them, but they're interesting. Yeah, there are a couple interesting teams and a couple of teams that might be less interesting trade wise. Given how they're playing, like Atlanta. If Atlanta keeps playing like this, I think they just sort of ride it out instead of sniffing around some interesting trades. But, we'll see.
I'm shocked by Atlanta being 13-6 with the season Horford's having. Horford, we've talked a couple times here about how Horford was such an intriguing trade piece, and that's somebody you could get, and what would he be worth? And, we just assigned a really high value to him. And now I'm watching him and I'm thinking like 2 surgeries on his shoulders. Maybe he's at a different point in his career. What are you seeing?
I feel like he's been a little better defensively the last 10 days or so when I've caught them a little friskier around the basket. But he hasn't been. I mean, look, we're sitting here complaining about him. He's shooting 55%, and generally
but
playing.
He doesn't look the same.
And he's not even getting to the foul line once a game.
No.
He's not as springy.
He's 12 and 6 basically.
Yeah, he's not as explosive. He's not as big. He's not as big a part of their offense as he probably should be. And they're, every time I've run into them, they've been like, they're kind of waiting for him. He's their big foundation piece, and he hasn't been himself yet. But look, it hasn't really mattered. That said, they've played the easiest schedule in the league, and that's going to change. But look, me, I'm an Atlanta optimist. I think they're a legit good team.
I think they're very well coached. I like their players. The Schroeder thing, which you actually wrote about on Friday. Was it Friday?
Yeah. Schroeder.
Schroeder
and Andre Robertson are like the top of my list of guys whose names I will just never pronounce correctly the first time.
It made me mad. I did that draft. I did the draft telecast, and it felt like he went a couple picks too late. He was the one, watching clips on YouTube of European guys. You take them with a million grains of salt. He was the one he kind of looked. It was like, ooh, I could see this guy making it. And then they totally whiffed on the Brazilian guy who they gave away. But Schroeder. Yeah, he's pretty intriguing. And they're second in the East right now. As you said, they had a super easy schedule. I think Washington, for me, other than the Cleveland-Chicago combo, Washington to me is the highest upside just because of what Pierce has meant to them and the fact they haven't really been totally healthy all year. I just like their ceiling, and I think the Pierce signing was my favorite signing of this summer. I love what he's done for them. What do you think?
And he hasn't even played that well. I mean, he hasn't found himself yet. And part of that is because I think they viewed him more as a guy who was going to swing between small forward and power forward, and injuries have prevented him from playing much four so far. I mean, I'm looking at, he's shooting 31% from three, 42 overall. I mean, he's just been okay, but he does give them a swagger. He's tough. He puts everyone in line. The Nets missed that about him, the sort of accountability that he brings. And like you said, I mean, the Wizards are scrapping along, winning these games, and Nene has plantar fasciitis, which everyone could see coming years in advance, and has been in and out of the lineup, and Martell Webster still isn't back. Beal missed the first bunch of games, and it's again, they haven't played a knockout schedule, but they've played well. They're good. They're legitimately good. I mean, that's the top three in the East right now: Toronto, Atlanta, Washington. I don't think it'll end up that way, but it's kind of fun.
I like the two best veteran clubhouse locker room, been there before ads for this season were Jason Terry and Pierce. Jason Terry is when I was so proud of Daryl when he did that. It was basically like you're just taking a contract from Sacramento. They want to shed, salary and stuff, but you just need guys like that. It's important. Jason Terry's not 40% of what he was 5 years ago, probably, but he'll still make a big shot. He's not afraid, and he'll still take people under his wing. And, and that's what I think Pierce and Rasul Butler from stuff I've heard.
Rasul Butler is just outrageous. I mean, every shot he takes, I'm like, why is it that Rasul Butler can't take that? And it goes in. And I'm used to it. Now it's like, oh, Rasul Butler had 22 points again. Okay, I guess that's like a thing that's going on now. I don't think the Rockets actually expected Jason Terry to play, or at least play nearly this much. But it's like he started games as their quote unquote point guard recently. Yeah. I mean, and that's part of what makes Harden so valuable, is that he's their point guard basically. But yeah, Jet he's been making shots. I mean, what else can you say? They're scrapping out wins.
Rasul Butler, I think it was on the 2010 Clippers maybe, or 2011, one of those before Chris Paul got there, and he was washed up. It's improbable that he has become an important playoff piece. I did put it this way, I did not see that one coming.
Well, I don't think that's good. That's not going to last. I mean, he's not going to be an important player.
He's won games for them though. This guy was out of the league 4 years ago.
No, he's 35. He's been phenomenal for them. He's shooting 57%. 55% from three. Oh my God, even better than I thought.
Yeah.
You need, when you're in an 82 game season, you need guys like that, right? You need like the stopgap guy. And it was Garrett Temple for like 5 or 6 games at the beginning of the season. You need a guy who's just like, okay, 4 guys are hurt. Can someone just get me a few buckets tonight so we can limp through these games? Well, yeah, I don't really get it, but he's playing well.
We only have 8 minutes left. because I promised you could go back to work to your column.
We can do a little more if you want, but go ahead.
I can't believe the Knicks are 4-18. I knew they were. I didn't think they were going to be good, but 4-18 is unbelievable. I'm even more amazed that Detroit is 3-18. You and I were both riding the Stan Van Gundy train. I don't know what he's doing this year. I didn't really like their summer signings. I don't really like the way the team's coached. I don't know if it's his fault that Josh Smith attempted a game-winning 3 down by 2 points the other day.
I didn't hate that shot, for the record. I didn't hate that shot. Just go. There was like 6 seconds left. Just go. Just let it fly. You're not going to beat the Thunder in overtime. I'm on board with that shot. But
are we sure Stan's not Stan Tank Gundy?
Certainly, the degree to which they tried to make Drummond a post-up player in the first 10 or 15 games had that vibe of like, we don't care what the learning curve is. We're just going to do this.
Yeah, it feels this feels very tanky to me this whole season.
Well, look, the Meeks injury was a disaster, not because he's so good, just because they just,
stretch the floor.
Yeah, they don't have shooting. They don't have wing depth. And the Monroe situation is bad. I mean, he's not coming back there. Everyone knows he's not coming back there. And, he's been really good in the post for them and not really good in very many other ways. And, probably I wouldn't blame him if he's checked out a bit. And Jennings has been, after a decent start, he's been terrible lately. It's just not a good collection of players. And yeah, I was dead wrong. I thought they'd be the number 7 or 8 seed in the East. I was super optimistic about them, and they're hard to watch. I mean, literally, they're hard to watch. I hate watching them.
Sal, Joe House, and I made 3 over-under bets this year. We bet on Golden State. I think they were like 52. We went over. We bet on Atlanta 43 over, and tragically Detroit 36 over. I think we're going to be sending that one to the mortuary.
Yeah, that's you might lose that one in like 2 weeks the way things are going now.
I have to say, I asked you before what you were the most surprised by this season. I'm the most surprised by Charlotte. We did our league pass thing, and I was talking about how if they get David West, they're a serious contender. Lance has been an out and out. I don't even know what the word is. What he's done to that team, it's almost like he's a mole. Indiana sent him as a mole to ruin Charlotte, and now they're just going to trade back for him in December 15th for George Hill and have a big laugh about it. Like this was like Larry Bird's big plan. I can't believe how bad he is on the Hornets. You've written about it a little bit. Do you have a theory?
I mean, I was down on them before the season, but this is preposterous what's happening. They should not be this bad. I mean, they just don't have shooting, and their defense has been what we expected it would be last year when they sort of outperformed by a mile. As for Lance, look, he had a groin injury in the preseason, and the people with the team say, that just kind of really hampered both his jumper and his ability to find his place early on with, where am I going to get my shots? How am I going to play with this new bunch of guys? And they also played a very tough schedule, so they'll sort of bank some wins coming up against bad teams. But look, the bottom line is he can't shoot. He's not shooting. He can't make shots. And if he can't make shots, it makes it harder for him to get to the rim. And if he can't get to the rim, he's not really doing much. It's just, and his what's the proper way to say this? His
demeanor
is the right word. His demeanor has been awful. And look, this is not like us from 1,000 miles away saying this. I was there, and like people hate it there. It's a real thing. Like people, the team is not thrilled with what they've gotten out of him. Let's put it that way.
I think he's one of the first. I think he's traded on December 15th or around then with somebody.
And he's poison, though. I'm not sure. I mean, look, he's not total poison because he's young and he's talented. And you're right that I think Indiana, for one, would take a shot at bringing him back. Is there another team?
I think it's Indiana. I think that. By the way, would you be shocked if they traded for Lance and then Paul George all of a sudden was working out on like March 1st?
Well, I mean, look,
I'm not ruling out any scenario of Indiana being an 8 seed with Paul George and probably coming back and Lance being on the team. If that's like a 20-1 bet, I'm making it.
Vogel has said in a few places, including on my podcast, that they haven't ruled out Paul George playing this year. I kind of mentally did, like in my mental picture of the Pacers, I just kind of ruled it out. But again, they're one of these teams that because all those playoff hopefuls are so terrible, they're right there. I mean, it's hard to believe, but they're not far out of the playoffs. And if they get healthy and things go right, and now David West is back, like, I guess I don't know. I mean, who the hell knows? Anything's possible in the Eastern Conference.
Let's gloat. I think it's time for some gloating. We're at the 20 game mark. Just
People
a little
love
bit.
that.
Just a tad of gloating. Just a tad. Both of us thought Miami was a borderline playoff team. And at gunpoint, we had them in the 6, 7, 8 range. I think we felt like somewhere between 38 and 45 wins, depending on how healthy Dwayne Wade was going to be during the season. Seemed realistic to both of us. People in Miami reacted like we said Dwayne Wade should be banned and sent to Siberia.
Yeah, people reacted like I shot Dwayne Wade.
Dan Le Batard, my friend of me, Dan Le Batard, hung up on you on his radio show.
That was a joke.
No, just go with me. I don't care about the facts. You were hung up on. Dan Le Batard hung up on you. And now Miami is 9-11. Just pointing this out. Oh, has Dwayne Wade played out 20 games? Let me see. Let me see how many games Dwayne Wade has played. He's played 13.
Yeah,
so he's on pace to the 55 to 60 range that both of us said is the kind of guy he is at this point of his career. He can't play an 82 game season anymore. Period.
It's actually kind of worrisome to me how, like, when he came back from missing those 7 games, he looked unbelievable, and he still looks. We had another good game last night, and that's great. But it's sort of alarming to me that he needs that to look like Dwayne Wade. He needs to take all that time off to look like himself again. And that's what the pessimism was based on, is that he's not going to play the whole season, and they just don't have enough good players to get through every night without him at 100%. And that's saying that Mario Chalmers has been fantastic this season, better than I anticipated it'd be.
Me too.
They've played a hard schedule. And Mick Roberts is just finally I think he started the last 3 games or something, and is just starting to feel like himself again. And so they're going to get some stuff back. But, am I surprised they're 9-11? No. I mean, I don't, they're right.
Bosch has been excellent.
Bosch has been great.
I think they might have bought a car from Tom Thibodeau where he rolled back the odometer. They bought the Luau Dangmobile, and they thought there was 40,000 miles on it, but it was actually 140. That could be a problem.
You got to check that. You got to check the Bulls odometer every time. Every time.
It's like, oh, this car's fine. I got it from Chicago. It's got 40,000 miles on it. No, not sure. Hey, I thought the most intriguing game I saw this whole season was Golden State versus Chicago. And especially the part where Golden State just said, screw it, we're going to go small for a lot of this game, and we don't think you guys can handle it. And it worked. And Draymond Green has turned into this, I guess, what do we call him? A stretch 4 or a small ball 4 or whatever the word is. He's turned into like a legit asset. Like, he might make my trade value column.
Draymond Green is good. And I think he's just a 4 now. I think that's what he is. I don't even think I think he's just a 4.
So is that the weakness for Chicago? If teams going small and kind of making the move?
I mean, it's a weakness for everyone, right? I mean, like, it's a weakness for anyone who plays that way. Any team that has that much shooting anywhere, but particularly at the 4, is a problem. And what's interesting for Chicago is, I think one of the reasons they've had some rebounding and interior defense issues this year is they can't sort of mix and match things so that Noah is near the basket all the time, like they've been able to. Noah has to guard the Draymond Greens because Pau Gasol can't do it, and Pau Gasol's not the interior defender at the basket that Noah is. So they've been having some problems in that regard. But, Draymond Green is really good. In that game, I finally watched that game yesterday. I couldn't watch it. When was it? Saturday, I guess. I couldn't watch it on Saturday. I couldn't watch it start to finish on Saturday. And I knew Draymond Green had 30 or whatever. But, like, what's almost more impressive to me is within the first 5 minutes of that game, he had like 4 deflections and a block shot. I mean, like, the guy is just... He's just making plays and making, it is cliche, he makes winning plays. I mean, he's really, really good.
Great second round pick. I remember saying on TV during his rookie year, laughing about him shooting threes. And now he's turned into a really, really above average 3-point shooter. And he's another good example of, like, that if you don't think somebody can make an outside shot, but he can do a million other things, maybe you bank on that he can learn how to shoot. And Draymond Green now is a real asset for them, and they can spread the floor. The Warriors are my favorite League Pass team right now because I feel like I like all the different styles they can play. and Steph is great. The home crowds are great. I just really get a kick out of watching them there. But you wrote about Dallas, I think 2 Tuesdays ago. I thought that was one of your best pieces. I really enjoyed that. And the big takeaway from that piece, and just from watching them all year, which I think people haven't really grasped, is they've kind of turned basketball into soccer. They don't really run plays, and they react to what the defense is doing. And whatever the defense does, that's how the players move, which is basically how soccer's played. It's brilliant. And I'm just kind of continually flabbergasted that how they figured out how to do it. Do you think this is something that can actually win a title, though?
I'm pessimistic, just because I don't think they have enough defense. And
I don't either.
And I think when they get to the playoffs, they're going to be scouted, and teams are going to be prepared, and they're going to face great defenses. And it's just, they'll still score, because they scored against San Antonio in the playoffs last year. They score. I just don't know if they'll score quite as much as they're doing now. And look, they play only one good defensive player in their starting lineup. Their point guards, look, they're going to have to face Tony Parker and Russell Westbrook and, on and on. And they don't have good point guards. And that's a conscious choice that they've made to sort of spend not there and spend elsewhere. Look, they're 16-6. They're really, really good. By the way, they're 7th in the West at 16-6, which is insane. I just don't know if they've got enough defense to make it all the way through. That's my that's everyone's skepticism about them.
Knicks fans should be madder about the Tyson Chandler trade, because it was made for the wrong reasons. And I'm just going to say what the reasons are. I don't care. Chandler and Carmelo Anthony did not get along. And the Knicks, as part of their recruitment for Carmelo Anthony, decided in June that they needed to trade Tyson Chandler because that would give them a better chance to re-sign Carmelo Anthony. And that's fine. Tyson Chandler didn't have a great year last year. In fact, it looked like he might have had some miles on him. But on the other hand, he's heading into a contract year. He was playing for a team that had the worst point guards in the league, and he's one of the best screen and roll guys in the league. He couldn't have been in a worse offense where he's just kind of standing there watching Carmelo shoot, or Ray Felton or J.R. Smith do nothing, and was clearly somebody who had real value. And they did the classic 2 quarters, 2 dimes for $1 trade and gave him away and didn't really get anything back of real value for him. I'm sorry. I don't think Jose Calderon is an above average point guard at this point. That trade would make me mad if I was a Knicks fan, because if you had Chandler now, at least you'd be able to shop him, try to get something for him. You can't get anything for anyone on that roster. And then last point on that, it's crazy to me how the Chandler and Wright, they figured out how to use in the exact same way, and kind of like the hybrid of those two guys, just for how they use them. That might be a combo who shoots 70% from the field this year. I'm just really impressed by Dallas. I think they're really smart. They've kind of stumbled their way just from being smart into a fringe contender, just by kind of outthinking other teams, right? Wouldn't you agree with that?
It's some stumbling and some not stumbling. I mean, they understand. I don't mean
stumbling like they were. I don't mean it was like, they were. It wasn't intentional. I mean, just like they've. I guess like shifting would be a better word. Sorry.
Yeah, no, they're very smart. They're very smart, and they understand how the league, sort of how league rules have changed and how you should play offense. And they understand Tyson Chandler's value. And I don't think the Knicks did. And I'll say this, though, people should really appreciate Tyson Chandler and Brandon Wright, because it's much harder on a lot of levels to just screen and roll to the basket and be good at it than they make it look. I mean, there just aren't a lot of big guys who can catch the ball at the foul line and dunk in a smooth, all-in-one motion kind of way, for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's hard. You have to be a good athlete. You have to have good hands, and you have to be long and explosive. You have to be able to shoot free throws well, or else people will just foul you like they do, like they should, and are starting to do more with Andre Drummond. Yeah. And also, like, you are willingly embracing a role where you're not going to get the ball a lot. Your job is to just dive to the rim and suck in defensive players so other guys can shoot. And I will say, I'm going to write this tomorrow. I mean, I'd take a guy like Larry Sanders at Milwaukee. That's how Milwaukee wants him to play. And they have trouble getting him to do it, because it's hard for him to see the value of, I'm just going to run like this and not get the ball. And that's not like super exciting for me.
Right. And also there's a certain skill knowing to cut a second before everyone else realizes you started the cut. And that's something Chandler's been great at. You had a couple of clips in your column, but you watch them over and over again. And all they do is just wait for teams to fall asleep for a second. And suddenly those guys are flying to the rim on the weak side. It's really effective. I think when I look at that Dallas team, you talked about how, their offense is on a semi-historic pace so far. Parsons isn't even playing well. They're using him perfectly. Like, he fits. He makes sense in that team, but he's not playing well yet. And if he can get his stats up, then that team, I think, could really go on a run. I feel like he's still kind of feeling his oats. He went from one situation to a situation that's just totally different from a hoops IQ standpoint. And I think he's catching up still, but I like what I'm seeing from them. I've really enjoyed basketball this year. There's a lot of teams, like even a team like the Celtics that's below 500 is fun to watch. There's a lot of fun to watch teams this year. Milwaukee, Orlando, you're just going down the line, and it seems like there's good hoops on every night. I love this season. Where does it rank for you?
Really great season. And I think fun to watch is like, that's not by accident. The league wants itself to be fun to watch. And the way they've changed the rules and the way that offenses have to play now, swinging the ball to beat these defenses that can load up on one side of the floor, et cetera, et cetera. It is fun to watch. If you're not fun to watch, you're probably doing something wrong. It's really good. And, even I'll say this, Philly is fun to watch because Philly plays like that. They have no talent, or they have some talent, very minimal talent, but they're even fun to watch. I mean, it's just, there are very few teams I look at and say, oh God, they're boring to watch. Everyone is pretty damn fun to watch. The Lakers aren't so fun to watch. Minnesota skeleton crew is not really that fun to watch. Detroit is miserable. I'll tell you who's the team that's Charlotte. Charlotte is boring. Oh, Al Jefferson's kind of fun. I'll tell you the team that's been boring since the minute they moved here is Brooklyn. Brooklyn has never for 1 second been an entertaining team to watch. They're just boring. And I don't know how else to say it. They're boring to watch. Yeah.
I like watching that Milwaukee team. It's just like the team of guys with long arms flying around doing stuff. And last point, I love KJ McDaniels. I talked about this with House last week, but oh my God. If they did the draft again, he'd be in your top 5, right?
Oh boy.
I think he's in my top 5.
I'd have to look at the draft. You're better than me at remembering draft orders.
Oh my God. That guy is like a freak athlete. A defensive menace. That guy's going to be on a really good team at some point in his life. I like him.
He's the only guard in the league who puts up like 9 rebounds and 4 blocks, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess that's just another game for KJ McDaniels. Yeah, you look at some of these guys who were drafted in the first round. Adrian Payne hasn't even played barely yet.
Then you think like OKC just giving away that 29th pick. Just giving it away.
You got to rub that in league every time. Well, every time.
If I'm an OKC fan, how does that not drive me crazy that KJ McDaniels got taken 3 picks later? That would drive me crazy. I would go absolutely. All I would think about is the fact that my team willingly gave away their first round pick, and this guy got taken 3 picks later. I would go nuts. Or I would not be able to handle it.
This is a bad example because Shabazz Napier has actually played Napier. Has actually played well and played a lot of crunch time for Miami. But they drafted him because of LeBron. I mean, that's the reason that they picked him. And
LeBron
KJ McDaniels, is a better long term. Yeah, KJ McDaniels. People just didn't know if he could shoot or really dribble, and he's been much better at those things than people thought. He's legitimately. They're coming here on Friday, I think, to Brooklyn, and I'm excited to see them because they've looked like an okay NBA team for about 2 weeks, and that's a nice step up for them. I mean, look, they are tied in the loss column with Detroit and New York, which is really, really sad for Detroit and New York.
Last thing, and then we got to go to JackO. You know who else passed on KJ McDaniels, and it's a tragedy, is the Clippers at number 28. He would be playing crunch time for the Clippers.
No, he would. Doc wouldn't play him. Doc wouldn't play him. Come on.
Doc's trying not to win the title if he's not going to play that guy, because that he would immediately become their best perimeter defender by 100 times over anyone else they have on that roster. But holy mackerel! And also Bruno. There's a little Bruno buzz, tiny bit, just a whiff. There's a whiff of Bruno buzz.
The one game he got in, he damn near caused a riot across Canada.
I'm really happy for the good people of Toronto. I'm glad they have a fun team. DeRozan will come back in 8 weeks. They'll be fine. They're going to be a top 3 seed. I'm excited. I'm excited for the trade they're going to make.
I'm going there for the holidays, and guess what? They're on the road the entire freaking time I'm there. And do you know why? Hockey. The World Junior Hockey Championship is taking over the Raptors arena for like 2 weeks. They're on the road the whole time I'm there. I normally get to like 2 or 3 Raptors games in. Hockey. Do you know that people in Canada watch the World Junior Hockey Championships? Like, it's appointment viewing. Bars are overflowing because like Canada is playing the Czech Republic in World Junior Hockey. It doesn't even have to be Canada. They overflow for like, let's go watch the Czech Republic play Russia in World Junior Hockey. It's freaking insane.
They love their hockey. It's how they treat the World Junior Championships is like what happens to America with the World Cup every 4 years when people just start going out and it becomes a thing. That's every year with the World Junior Championships.
I remember the first time, like 2 years ago, I was there, or 4 years, must have been 4. I don't know how. Is this an every year event? I have no idea. But my sister-in-law said, "Hey, why don't you come out to this bar, Shoeless Joe's, with us? We're going to watch the World Junior Hockey Championships." And I said, "That's on television?" And she looked at me like I was a crazy person. Like, of course it's like is the Super Bowl on television? Yes.
You know who else passed on KJ McDaniels?
The Celtics.
Well, I'm proud owner of James Young stock, but Milwaukee at number 31. Imagine putting him on that Milwaukee team with all the other long arm crazy athlete guys.
Believe me,
roll out a whole team of long arm crazy athlete guys. They could add an entire starting 5.
That question came up during my time in Milwaukee.
I would be sure. If I owned a team who had a pick from 24 on. And we didn't take KJ McDaniels, it would be a 4-hour meeting with my staff as I tried to figure out what happened and how we never repeat that mistake.
They picked Damian Inglis, who doesn't have a driver's license yet. And so people have to drive him to and from practice. And when I was there, Zaza Pachulia was his ride and was like getting really, really annoyed that Damian Inglis was taking forever to get out of the practice facility. So that's his role on the team right now. Is he's like everyone's the guy everyone has to chauffeur around Milwaukee.
Come on, Mallory Edens. You missed the KJ McDaniels pick. I know you're preparing for college, but come on. You should have been all over that one. Zach Lowe will read your big Tuesday Grantland column that's coming out today, since that's when the podcast comes out. Thanks as always for the time. Talk to you soon.
Have fun.
All right. As promised, we're going to call my buddy JackO, and we're going to make fun of the Yankees and the Red Sox. I'm a Red Sox fan. He's a Yankee fan. This is what we do. Let's call him.
Complex Litigation. This is John.
Johnny.
What's up, buddy?
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
We haven't made fun of each other for our baseball signing, so I thought we could do that now.
I thought you were calling me to ask what time the ticker tape parade was now that the Yanks have gotten the final piece of the puzzle, Didi Gregorius.
Yeah. Did he hit 230 last year?
That's what people tweeted at me. For Arizona fans said that he's great defensively, but I'll be breaking TVs watching him trying to hit. So I look forward to that.
How many times will you have 4 beers and you watching a Yankee game when that guy comes up just muttering to yourself, "You're not Derek Jeter"? You're not.
The over-under is probably around 90 different games. I'll say that. Maybe higher. I take the over.
I knew Derek Jeter. I love Derek Jeter. You're not Derek Jeter.
I follow the Yankees on Twitter, and when they signed him or traded for him, they had a number of highlights or whatever, vines or Instagrams or whatever, and all of them were defensive plays. So that's a little sign of things to come, I think, for old Didi.
Well, let's make fun of your team first, then we can turn our attention to my team.
Doesn't Didi Gregorius sound like the name of a stripper from the 60s too?
I mean, it sounds like a lot of things, right? It sounds like a terrible Showtime drama.
Somebody said it sounds like an 80s hair metal band guitarist.
Of DJ Gregorius. He was on Def Leppard for a couple years before he got in a fight with Joe Allen.
Exactly. I still stand by the 1960s stripper. I think Didi Gregorius opened at Jack Ruby's Carousel Club in Dallas. 1962. She was a featured dancer.
She dated a mafioso boss. She's always been suspected.
Exactly. Right. Sam Giancana's side piece, Didi Gregorius.
That's good. I don't think I could top that one. So you have the other big move is you paid $9 million a year for Andrew Miller. I actually like that one.
Yeah, they could have They could have a really solid bullpen. I was of the mind of letting Dave Robertson take his talents elsewhere, but somebody pointed out somewhere I saw on the internet and said if you have a Miller Betances set up with Robertson, that really does make a phenomenal bullpen potentially.
Or why wouldn't you just sign Robertson and then trade him? What does he want? What is this money situation?
I don't know what he's asking for. I think he wants.
I thought it was like $15 million a year, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know whether they would sign him and trade him. I mean, if somebody else wants him, they'll just go get him. I don't know how much of a commodity he is. I mean, if it was up to me, I would let Betances close. I think he's ready. I would do like what they did after '96, where they let Wetland walk and they let Mariano be the closer. I'm not saying Betances is Mariano, obviously, but
no, he's
I like
better
a guy
than Mariano.
I like a guy that throws 98, 99. 100.
It doesn't give up hits or runs.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a fan of that?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I had him on my League of Dorks team. Yeah, I had him on my League of Dorks team last year, and it was like one of the greatest fantasy experiences I've ever had in my life.
Yeah,
Just come in and strike out two guys every inning.
I mean, maybe they took a look at the World Series this year and said the Royals got there basically on a bullpen and defense, and one capable starter essentially. Paraphrasing obviously, or hyperbole, but basically it was great defense and a great bullpen that got them to the World Series. So maybe the Yanks think they can take a page out of that book and do the same thing in today's baseball.
I know you're going to be bouncing your grandkids on your lap, telling them about the time you saw an infield of A-Rod, DJ Gregorius, Martin Prado, and Mr. Mom, Mark Teixeira.
Yeah, I don't know that A-Rod's going to be involved there. I think they're hopeful of re-signing Chase Headley. So I'll be bouncing my grandkids talking about Chase Headley, Chase Didi, Martine, and Mr. Mom, and some A-Rod at first, I think.
What? I don't understand. Why don't they just buy out A-Rod?
I don't know either.
What is the point of A-Rod?
They would buy themselves $60 million of goodwill, because I think that Hal Steinbrenner is not George Steinbrenner, and I think he's much more of a bean counter, and he seems to be worried about money more. I mean, George Steinbrenner would have hired somebody to dig up dirt on A-Rod, or probably had him killed. But he certainly would have, if push came to shove, would have just bought out the $60 million and just eaten it, and figure you're buying $60 million of goodwill.
George Steinbrenner would have hired Howie Spira to frame him somehow.
Exactly. Somehow slandered A-Rod and made him slink away, before they made some damaging information public about him.
The Yankees, their best move should be you buy out A-Rod.
Right.
Then you hold a press conference and you say, we're making a commitment to the Yankee fans. We care about you guys and what you think. And we want the players on our team to represent the Yankee values that you grew up with. And this guy just didn't fit in. Huge win. Hank Steinbrenner's a hero for a week if he does that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Hal runs things. They put Hank out to pasture after his one brief moment in sunshine. I don't know.
Is he running the Lakers?
Yeah. Hank had his one brief moment of glory right after his father died, and he was in the spotlight. And then I think wiser heads prevailed and said, let's put Hank in the background.
And now he's working in the warehouse at Amazon.
Exactly. He works deep in the front office, way, way back in the front office.
So I was at JFK Airport like a month ago, and I was in the gift shop, and they were selling a Jeter jersey like a month after he retired. It was the only Yankee jersey available, which brought me infinite delight.
Yes.
And I emailed a couple of the Yankee fans that I'm friends with and sent a picture and made fun of you guys, and we went back and forth. At some point, there's going to have to become a signature Yankee to replace Jeter because he doesn't play baseball anymore.
Yes.
He's now the editor of the Players website or whatever. What is it? What's that? The Players Tribune.
The Players Club. Players Tribune, yes.
Senior
Players
editor,
Club is
Blake
something else.
Griffin.
That's right.
Yeah, we have an opening for a pop culture editor at Grantland. We were looking at Blake Griffin. I saw some of his senior editor work at the Players Tribune. Is he on WordPress? Blake, will you take this edit test for us? We just want to make sure you're a senior editor.
It's a chance for athletes to interact with the public unfiltered, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that their slogan or something? Their mission statement?
I don't want to cast aspersions on the writing talent of some of these athletes, but
I think they need a little filter.
Well, somebody who runs a website and sees raw copy and is hired a bunch of different writers and editors. You can kind of tell when a piece has been polished.
Yeah.
So we say.
Yeah.
I'm going to say those pieces have been polished.
Lack a little polish. Maybe that's the beauty of it. It's raw, you know?
No. I'm saying they're too polished.
Oh, they are.
Like the Blake Griffin thing was like genuinely well written.
You think the first hire was a team of ghostwriters?
I think Blake Griffin's a really smart guy. Like I would put him on the high end of the smart athlete scale, but that was not his copy. That piece was really dramatically rewritten because it was really, really well written. And there's no athlete who can write like that. They're athletes. I just don't believe it.
They're busy doing other things, getting better athletically.
I mean, there's been a couple of examples of athletes just writing really, really, like I think Bill Bradley's Life on the Run was really well written. And there's been some other books that were well written, but for the most part, I mean, there's a certain level of writing where you're like, okay, that's being professionally done. Anyway, that's what Jeter's doing now.
Yes.
And there's a spot now for a signature Yankee. And I can't remember the last time we didn't have a signature Yankee. Like even in the late 80s, early 90s, you had the Hitman. If
you go to the Yankees museum at Yankee Stadium, they refer to this time frame as the Jeter era. And basically the way last time I was at the Yankee Museum was a couple of years ago in the new stadium, and they had they have the Ruth era, and then it was the Gehrig era, and then the DiMaggio era, and the Mantle, and then this era was the Jeter era. So, there's gaps in between those time frames. The Mantle era ended in 69, and then they didn't really have they had the Jeter era that started in 96. So
was there a Mel Holly era or no?
Sadly, there was, but I'm not sure the Yankees officially recognize it. The Steve Balboni era, I think, was what they had in the 80s.
I was there. Mattingly was an era. I'm giving Mattingly an era.
Well, I don't think the Yankees count it because, unfortunately for Donnie Baseball, there was no championships there in the 80s. And the 77-78 thing, was kind of the Reggie era, although I'm not sure that they officially labeled it as such. So,
the Yankees Reggie Thurman, Billy Martin era.
Yeah. The Bronx Zoo era, I guess, would be a good summation of that. So, there unfortunately are fallow periods for the Yankees, and we may be entering into one now. And your criticism of the Jeter jerseys at JFK, I mean, he did just retire in October. If you're JFK next year at this time and they're still selling Jeter jerseys, I think you have a better argument. But I think there's still a little carryover from the season now, and people celebrating his iconic exit from Yankee Stadium. I think it's fair still to sell Jeter jerseys at JFK.
Yeah, there's nothing at all pathetic about celebrating somebody who's not on the team anymore.
So you're okay from the guy whose team celebrates the 8th year anniversary of the 2004 World Series when things aren't going well in 2012.
Don't let me into that. Those are the Red Sox owners. Those guys would.
I don't
sell anything.
I don't run the JFK concession store. If I'm taking heat for that, you're taking heat for the sudden 8-year anniversary of the 2004 team.
At some point, you're going to need a signature Yankee, is my point.
They drag out Kevin Millar and Pedro for every opening of a new concession stand at Fenway. Give me a break.
But they're available.
Very available.
Well, maybe it's,
I don't know who the face of the Yankees will be now.
I think I know who it is. I think it's Masahiro Tanaka for the 3 weeks before his arm blows out.
I was going to say Tanaka too, but I think that he is probably a big time Yankee. I saw he was on the cover of some Topps baseball card thing or something. So I think that they can cross market that with Japan, and he's an enormous star in Japan. And I'm not sure that how much he's going to catch on in America because he's a pitcher. He's not an everyday player in terms of being the face of the Yankees. But yeah, and while we all wait nervously for his elbow to shred, so.
What about does Jacoby Ellsbury have to get his OPS over 750 before he can be in the conversation?
I was going to suggest him because he probably has the longest term contract now with the Yankees. I think they'd like it to be Brian McCann, but I'm not sure Brian McCann wants to be that guy. I think they have visions of him being like the Munson-esque leader of the Yankees, but he didn't have anywhere close to the numbers to be the face of anything except futility.
Well, he got on base 29% of the time last year.
Yeah, that's not bad. There you go. Yeah. So that's going to have to. So I don't know. They might have not. Maybe it'll be maybe CC, although he's not an everyday player either, and he's on the downside.
Oh, Johnny.
CC seems to be a lot of places publicity wise. So
CC seems like he's taking one last grab at it before he goes 8-15.
Yeah, that's what we're headed for. Yeah, I think we're heading into I think we're in a period between iconic leaders, faces of the franchise.
Here's what I think you do. I think you let Robertson go. I think you make Betances the closer.
Yeah.
And I think he becomes the signature guy. Give him a nickname. Does he have a nickname? Is he Big Cat? What's his nickname?
I don't know if he has a nickname. He needs one.
Needs a nickname. Get him a nickname. Good entrance music for when he comes in and closes, and that becomes your signature guy.
There you go. He is New York grown, so local boy made good and all that. Absolutely.
He does not have a nickname.
There you go.
From what I can tell. Yeah, from Brooklyn. There's your dude, Johnny. You're in. You're back.
There you go.
All right, let's make fun of my team.
Finally.
We have 30 outfielders.
I'm so dreading this phone call because the minute I hang up, I'm going to get some Twitter alert from John Heyman updating saying Red Sox signed Lester for $40 or something. I know that's coming.
We're taping this on a Monday.
Yeah, winter meetings getting started.
Lester choice expected by Tuesday. Let's just pencil him in for the Sox now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Unless he's a giant trader.
That's lockdown. Well, he has no. Why should he have any loyalty to them? They shipped him out of town.
Oh, that was so wink.
Shipped him right out of town. They wouldn't play. He didn't want to have protracted contract negotiations. They embarrassed him with like a $75 million offer. Which was, they wouldn't offer to some guy off the street, and they offer that to their beloved John Lester, and now he's supposed to go back to them with open arms. Come on.
Yes, that's actually the plan. Yes, you just described it to a T. Thanks, Johnny.
Didn't he sell his house in Newton or put it on the market or something? I think like a month ago, that was a big thing where everybody thought it was locked down. He was coming to the Red Sox, and he put his house in Newton on the market. But I suppose if he gets $150 million, he could always buy another house.
I don't like when you hate read up on the Red Sox. I know you're hate reading. You're going to Boston.com.
I noticed that that popped up in a couple different places. So,
all right. So I'm going to defend the signings one at a time.
All right.
I didn't have to talk myself into the Panda signing.
No,
because I bet against him in the World Series, and I was completely terrified every time he came up. I always felt like he was going to get a hit, and I think he's a gamer. His postseason record speaks for himself. Beloved by the Giants fans. He loves going the other way. My dad was very excited about the Panda. He was doing the whole, it's like when Fred Lynn was here. He used to go the other way. Fred Lynn never should have left. Did that whole thing. So that was great. A natural kind of character, weird body guy to take over when Big Papi finally and tragically retires.
Right.
That'll be good. Huge thumbs up all the way around, and it's not my money, and I don't care if they might have overpaid a little bit. The Hanley thing's a little tougher.
The Panda thing is worth it for you because seeing Red Sox fans in Panda hats is going to drive me so crazy.
Yeah.
Every pink hat is going to throw away their pink hat and buy one of those stupid Panda mask hat things.
With Panda ears?
Those are going to be flooding Fenway. If I could find a way to market, I got to talk to some suppliers overseas and see if they can get me some pink Panda hats, and I'll make a fortune. I'll retire on selling pink Panda hats to Fenway because that is going to drive everybody insane.
I think he's going to be peppering the wall from 7:30 to 10:30, and then he's going to be peppering the North End for late meals, and I don't care. I
can't wait till he hits one off the wall and gets thrown out at first. The old Greg Luzinski.
First whatever. I'm into it. I love the Panda. It's a fun team. How can he not? First of all, he'd be in the JFK shop if he was on the Yankees. They'd be selling Panda jerseys and little Panda Yankee jersey things.
Probably, but yeah. Anytime you can pay, what do they pay him? $5 for 95 or $5 for 100 something?
Yeah. Well, it turns out, Johnny, 3 rings are expensive.
Jeez, I guess so.
He's got to carry his 3 rings.
I'm sure he'll only get better with age, more fit. No question about it. Money well spent. The 5th year of that contract, he's going to be great.
We're talking to him about a gluten-free diet.
Yeah, you might want to drop a few things besides gluten.
Glutino pretzels.
There you go.
A couple of getting things. So I love the Panda signing. You're not going to talk me out of it. Hanley, you could probably put some doubt in my mind.
Well, I don't love paying a guy who's oft injured. That's like the first line of anything description of him. Oft injured Hanley Ramirez. I don't love paying a guy who's oft injured that you don't have a position for.
Yeah, that's a problem.
He played short and then he moved to third, and you have a shortstop and a third baseman.
Yep, that's very true.
I don't understand giving a guy, neighborhood of $100 million and then say, by the way, you have an outfielder's glove. You want interested in learn how to play that at the major league level? When you're 30 something.
Yeah, these are problems.
I don't understand that. I really don't. I mean, that's like a classic. Like, they step in because they thought, when they used to have the Yankees Red Sox battles over free agents, was like, when they dabbled with Johan Santana just to drive up the price for the Yankees, and then he ended up going to the Mets anyway and was hurt. But whatever, they used to dabble with each other's free agent desires. Did they think the Yankees were going to step in and have him be like the shortstop or third baseman instead of Chase Headley? So they pulled the trigger because they have the money to do it.
Yeah.
And that you have about 17 outfielders now, and everybody knows you're selling Cespedes for 5 cents on the dollar because you have to get him out of town now.
These are all good points.
It made no sense to me. And if you don't get Lester, although I think you're probably going to get Lester, but if you don't get Lester, then and then Buchholz, you're looking at Buchholz as your number one starter.
That's a major problem.
Or if you're because you're not going to trade allegedly Hall of Famer Xander Bogaerts. You're dabbling with Cole Hamels, who I don't really love him, but still owed about $100 million coming to the American League.
Yeah.
And I don't love Scherzer. I don't think the Yankees will probably sign Scherzer now. I don't love Scherzer, who I think was sort of a 1 or 2 year wonder. I don't have a lot of faith in him, and I don't think he doesn't scare me as an opponent. So I'm like, if your biggest concern is pitching, and your pitching is basically a shambles, I understand you have the budget to do whatever you want to do, but I don't get the Hanley signing at all.
Really strong case, and I'd like to thank you for not mentioning that he's from the Dominican Republic and he might be 35 years old.
Well, that's a good point too.
So
that was the one good thing for it, is Big Papi is buddies with him. So I'm sure Big Papi has some of his magic elixir where Hanley will suddenly hit 35 home runs.
Be careful. So I had all of these same concerns, and my dad was visiting for Thanksgiving, and we were driving around, and we started talking about the Red Sox, and I was talking about how I was a little concerned about the Hanley signing. My dad talked me into it, and probably in 3 minutes.
Okay.
So first of all, his big brother and his mentor in life is David Ortiz.
Right.
That's his guy. So everyone agrees Hanley was kind of a cancer on the Dodgers, and
Big Papi won't let him get away with that.
His best friend in the minors? You aware of this?
I'm not.
Dustin Pedroia.
Really? There you go.
Yeah. Little Petey.
Nice.
His best friend. So there's a support system in place for young Hanley, who seems like he could, he's like that kid in high school. He can fall in with the wrong group.
First of all, young Hanley is a little bit of a stretch. Maybe just Hanley. Maybe just Hanley will work in this situation. And
yeah, he's the kid in high school who's like, "Hey, come out in recess. We're gonna smoke cigarettes in the parking lot." Okay, I'll come out. Or it could be like Ortiz and Pedroia, like, Hanley, during recess, we're gonna work out and eat some healthy food. Come on with us.
Yeah.
Maybe Ortiz is bad for that analogy, but I do feel like they must have inside info that they feel like those two guys can really help him from a personality standpoint.
Yeah, well, in the Red Sox front office, they always think that they're smarter than everybody else, and they always look askance at other teams, and think, oh, well.
Three World Series in 10 years will make you feel that way, Johnny.
Yeah, it's a fair point. But they always think that they're smarter than everybody, so they think, well, everybody else Hanley was a problem for, and his knees didn't hold up, and his hamstring, or whatever other back issues he has. But once we come here with all of our magic, it'll be just wonderful. And maybe it will be. Maybe it will be, but maybe it won't be. Maybe he'll be the Hanley of old.
It's a 4-year deal. He's not playing short for them.
No.
He's a terrible shortstop.
No, they're going to make him into an outfielder for the first time at age 33 or whatever he is.
Well, they'll put him in right field. But he hit in a little more than half a season, 2013, at 345, 20 homers. my friend Hershey, who's a giant Dodger fan, believes to his dying bone in his body that the Dodgers would have won the World Series in 2013 if Hanley didn't get hit in the first playoff game.
Yeah.
He was red hot. He was carrying us. He also said Hanley's one of those guys that he'll get a double. He'll slide into second base and it'll take him 5 minutes to get up. I don't know how that's going to play in Boston.
Right. And I think he has a tendency to sort of linger after injuries where he's not going to be like, fighting to get back in the lineup, racing to come back. He's going to make sure he's fully healed. And, I'm not sure how that's going to play among the faithful either.
Well, and then the other thing she said, who was a huge Dodger fan, he said when Hanley's in the zone, it's Manny-esque. Like he'll have these little 2-3 week stretches where he's just destroying the ball. And it's like, and he said he's one of the best swings he's ever seen. And it's just like when he's on, he said it's like a pleasure to watch him. Like you don't want to miss his at-bats. So that's fun to have.
There you go.
I could go either way. I do feel like it has all the makings of somebody that the Boston media, like one small thing will happen and they'll turn on him and then it'll just become a death spiral.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, I could see that happening, no question.
Like the fragile, they'd say he's fragile or whatever, and then all of a sudden he's the worst person on the planet, and he should be excommunicated and sent out of the United States and put in prison.
Well, hopefully he'll get.
Boston.
Hopefully he'll
Boston. They're arguing about Tom Brady's F-bombs on the sidelines. This is a story in Boston. Like, are you kidding me?
I know. I know. They need something to write about. You always said it's cold here. It's getting to be winter. It's not getting to be. It is winter. People are miserable, so they want to be miserable about something.
Well, people are miserable, but the media people are really miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, Shaughnessy is just like poison.
Oh,
like that guy should just have a bottle of arsenic as his headshot. Just lives in the misery and poison and toxicness of everything. Toxicity, whatever that word is.
Toxicity, yes.
He is just I can't believe people think he's like the representative of Boston sports fans, like as the leading whatever.
So from a Red Sox hater perspective, what I can hope for is that the media starts picking on Hanley, and then he goes into a shell or lashes out and becomes
and then Ortiz
prickly.
Gets mad.
And then Ortiz gets prickly and lashes out at the media, and then everybody starts dumping on Ortiz, and then we just have complete chaos.
And then you have all the miserable radio station guys. They get into it, and then there's this counter thing of all the other people saying the media is being too mean, and then that's what they do in Boston. That's one of the reasons I had to leave. I couldn't take it anymore. It's like they're creating stories that are about the media, not the actual athletes.
That gives me something to look forward to. I'm excited about this now.
I'm a little worried about that.
All the more.
So it's a weird strategy because basically they took the two best hitters off the market, and now they're going to try to trade hitting because so many more teams need hitting than pitching, and there's actually a surplus of pitchers, which sounds great on paper, but they haven't made any trades yet.
Right. Maybe everything is going to – there's a log jam. I think everybody's waiting for Lester to come off the board, and then once that happens, things will fall quickly with dominoes, and then, teams that need pitching are going to move pitching for bats. And, I mean, the Mets have this, surplus of alleged young arms that are the next great thing, and, they're looking to wheel and deal to get some offense. So we'll see how much that happens. And, the Sox have offense and, are looking for pitching. So
I'm going to say this. It's going to sound like I'm trying to peddle him and get teams interested in him. Like anyone would make a trade based on what we're talking about at the 59th minute mark of a podcast.
I'm sure they're listening at the winter meetings right now.
The Jed Hoyer and Theo Epstein are listening really carefully right now for my opinion on this. Shane Victorino.
Oh, my God. I thought you were going to talk up Cespedes. You're going to talk up Shane Victorino. Oh, my God. Let me just tell you, it's a 1987 Yugo, but it's a classic. This car, let me tell you, people want this car. It's reliable. It's good on gas. Oh, my God. I was getting ready for a big Cespedes argument, like, oh, he's got a cannon for an arm, and what a bat.
Well, that's not true. I mean, I don't even need to sell you that.
Shane Victorino. Yeah, it's got 3 wheels, but you can find another wheel really easily. It's not that big a thing. They're on eBay all the time.
Wow, I didn't even get to say a third word. I just said Shane.
I hope Jed Hoyer just pushed stop on his iPod and stopped listening to this podcast.
So last year, Shane's contract.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Terrific defensive outfielder.
Sure.
Great in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Beloved in the clubhouse.
The
and he's in a
15 games
contract
he was
year.
there last year, they all loved him. Yeah.
He's in a contract year. You know he's going to be in shape.
You do realize this is not the NBA. There's no value to an expiring contract. You get that, right?
I just think, like for instance, the Mets signed Michael Kadire for 2 years, $22 million.
Right.
Sean Fantasy and I in the Grantland office, he's a Mets fan. We were talking about it, and he just thought it was horrible because on top of signing Kadire, who's not even good,
Right.
they gave up their number 1 pick.
Right.
In the signing, which is like on the face of it is just idiotic.
Of course.
If I had the choice between giving up my number 1 pick for Michael Kadire or just taking Shane Victorino's contract for a year, to me that's like I wouldn't even blink.
Yeah, well, in that context, yes, but
yeah. So
I'm not sure teams are going to be beating down your door for Shane Victorino.
Oh no, they're not even knocking on the door.
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't even think they're in our driveway.
No, but you're trying to convince them to come and kick the tires on him.
Here's the thing about Shane Victorino, and we see this in the playoffs every year. There's 2 guys that surface in like one of the championship series or even in the World Series that are familiar names that were kind of given up for dead, and then all of a sudden they're playing. And you're like, oh, that guy.
Yeah.
He's on that team? San Francisco had a guy like that last year. I'm blanking on who it was. But those guys just kind of, they kind of make appearances at the right times. He's one of those guys. He had one of the biggest hits in 2013 for us. He had a grand slam in the Tigers game.
Yes. Well, I wish you good luck with this marketing campaign for Shane Victorino. I'm not sure he's going to bring you Cole Hamels because I don't think they want him back in Philadelphia.
You're not buying, huh?
No, I'm selling on Shane Victorino, I'm afraid.
Okay. Well, I tried.
It's excellent effort, though.
Here's my fear, and I really, this is a really important point, and I really care about it. I don't want them to trade Mookie Betts. I'm going to really take it personally if they trade Mookie Betts. That guy can hit. That guy will come back to haunt us. The Bruins freaking traded Tyler Seguin.
Right.
No Bruins fan felt good about that trade when it happened because he was only 20, and we knew he was talented, and obviously he was partying too much or whatever he did, but he's like 4th in the league in points, and it was one of those trades that when it happened, my dad and I were bummed out. And I feel like if they gave up on Mookie Betts for a pitcher because they couldn't trade Cespedes or whatever, like that would make me unhappy.
I think they're going to have to move Mookie because I think every team that has pitching and they want him, they're going to inquire about him. Plus, the Red Sox have a rough history with people named Mookie, as I don't have to remind you. But
you tortured yourself last year watching Yankees Red Sox games, even though both of them were way out of the pennant race. Weren't you scared of Mookie Betts when he came up?
Yeah, he's very good, and all the scouts and everything say he's the best second baseman on the Red Sox. But you have,
that was a dig.
Oh yeah, well,
that was a dig.
All I had to hear for the past 5 to 10 years was, Jeter has no range, and the best shortstop on the team is A-Rod, and there's better shortstops, and he can't field, and he demands to play there, and he's putting his own personal aggrandizement over the needs of the team, and so I like to see the shoe on the other foot now that you have everybody's beloved little scrappy Binky, the de facto captain at second base, and you have a better second baseman who's younger and better in every aspect of the game. But because you have your beloved icon there at second base taking grounders in his folding metal chair with the cameras clicking while he has a broken foot or whatever, and everybody loves that, he's going to block the way, and they're going to send old Mookie out of town. And you can watch P.D. Roya hit whatever he hit last year, 260 or whatever.
All I could say is words hurt.
I hope so. So that's what's happening here. The shoe is now on the other foot. You've really become the Yankees. You're letting this player dictate over the needs of the team, and you're out buying people you don't even need. Scandalous, really.
Now we really need Pedroia because he's one of our 2 babysitters for Hanley Ramirez.
That's right. He's all the more important. That's how you can sell it when you send Mookie out of town. We had to keep Pedroia because he's best friends with Hanley.
Well, and then they signed the freaking Cuban guy, too. Who nobody's been able to explain what he's really good at except for playing defense.
Yeah, Runelvis or whatever.
About that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They love these Cuban guys. They're mysterious.
Yeah, Pedroia, I almost said Binky. You're like brainwashing me. Pedroia, 278 last year with the 376 slugging.
There you go.
Not really what I'm looking for from the
not
guy
much.
blocking Mookie Betts. He wasn't at the 7th in the MVP voting in 2013. So take that fact and smoke it. I don't want them to trade Mookie Betts. And if anyone listens to this podcast and comes away with anything other than the fact that the Yankees have no signature players and you're going to be miserable watching them this year, I don't want the Red Sox to trade Mookie Betts.
Well, the other option is that you trade Hall of Famer Xander Bogaerts, but that's off the table, right? Unless you're getting Sandy Koufax in his prime back.
That also feels Sagan-esque. Are you really going to give up on the guy because he had an off season in year 2? I don't like it. I don't like it. I put on Instagram a photo of us from 1989.
Yeah, I saw it. I'm not on Instagram, but I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, it was on my. I only did that for friends only. I think I did it incorrectly, but my Instagram account is SPTGUY33. If you want to see Johnny and I from 1989, I'm debating. I found this motherlode of this unbelievable college photo album that I thought I had lost or had gotten accidentally thrown out, and it's just unbelievable. And I'm debating like how far to go with posting some of these photos, even just on Facebook with just friends only. And I only have like 100 friends on Facebook, but there's some classics. And I gotta say, there was a little more underwear shots and just general bare ass humor than I remembered from college.
Male underwear shots, you should specify.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well,
male nudity and semi-nudity, yeah.
We had one roommate who used nudity as a comedic device, and it was effective.
To great effect, yes.
Yeah, it was effective.
You know, I'm 44, and I'm constantly reminded of that, but I don't really feel all that old. But then when I see a picture like that you posted of us from 1989 when we were 19, and we look like we're about 7 years old, I'm like, good Lord. It's been so many years ago. It's crazy.
There's another photo that I have that I didn't post where we're in your room and there's a U2 poster behind us. And it's just like...
Of course there was.
It's the perfect storm of old.
That's right.
It is great. There's some good ones. See, one of the photos I found was the group photo of Green Death Night.
Oh, God, yeah.
What was Green Death?
I think it was called like Heffenreffer or something.
It was some
we
green
got like 40
German
ounce malt liquor beer thing.
I thought it was like a little keg.
No, it was like it was just like a 40 ounce thing. It was like in a weird kind of jug or something, but it was like beer or malt liquor. But we did a power hour with it where you do a shot of it.
Oh, that was
every minute for an
idea.
hour. So you do like 60 shots in an hour of beer, which doesn't sound like it would be that bad, but then it hits you like you were on some crazy drug cocktail or something.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, that was not a good choice.
It's a mistake to do a power hour anyway, and I don't recommend them. Well, I kind of do, but don't do it with beer that's actually stronger than normal beer. Was maybe in retrospect a mistake. That was the night I woke up on the bathroom floor. I was going to the bathroom, and then the next thing I knew, I was just on the ground and my head hurt, and I just kind of went down going to the bathroom.
The two drinking escapades or whatever you would call them that really stand out are when we did that. Yeah. And then the other one was when we did that keg race.
Oh, that was
where
a mistake.
It was like 6 or 7 guys in a quarter barrel, and you had to see who could finish who finished it first.
Yeah.
You know, it was competing teams of like, I forget how many guys were on a team.
No,
maybe it was 7 or 10.
No. It totally wasn't 10. It was like 5.
5 or 6 guys, and then there was a massive garbage barrel with puke in it, because you would inevitably have to throw up to clear out your system, and then you just keep drinking.
Yeah.
And then there was a guy there who was in Rossi, and he had on like the Robert Duvall Cavalier Trooper hat after it was over, because after we all finished quarter kegs, and he was sitting on it with the celebratory half barrel, and he was saying, "There's no losers here. We're all winners. Everybody's a winner." I'm not sure that was the case, really, that everybody was a winner.
Yeah, there were no winners at all.
There was a lot of losers. And one of the teams was like a guy made up of football players, and I think they finished that thing in like 8 minutes.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
we learned pretty early that we weren't going to win. That was the only night I ever almost got into a fight in college at a party.
Yeah.
Because we were drunk, but we had also thrown up all the stuff. So it was like this weird kind of violent buzz. Yeah. It was just, the whole thing was weird. College is, I wonder like if that stuff is even happening as much in college anymore, because people are so afraid of all these different things, and rightfully so. We probably should have been more afraid of things.
It was the days before social media, so we had more carte blanche, but
I still think the craziest thing we did was highlight, though.
Oh, yeah.
I think highlight is the single most indefensible thing we did.
That was after being drunk, though. But I'm just talking about like the power hour and the keg race thing, where things.
No, they're in the discussion. I'm just saying, like, I don't even totally understand why we ever thought highlight was a good idea. For any reason. Because highlight was basically whipping a golf ball off a metal door and seeing who could stand the closest to it but not get hit. And it would come off the metal door at like 130 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. Should have died playing highlight.
It's really amazing. Nobody ever lost an eye. Off a metal door, and then if it hit cement, it was had even more velocity.
Even more amazing is that I had the video camera all through college and somehow never taped the highlight game. I feel like that would have 40 million views on YouTube now.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. That was dumb.
Yeah. Well, anyway, if you want to see a picture of JackO and I, check out my my Instagram feed, SPTGUY.
Haven't aged a minute. Look the same.
Johnny?
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Good time.
Worst of luck with your rest of your Yankees offseason.
And you as well.
Happy
holidays.
You too.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Target to sign off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.